How do the men find you? They call you up, and they look at the yellow pages, or online,
Well,
YouTube?
back in the day, they used to advertise in the yellow pages, but
Yeah.
no. I mean, I advertise online mostly now. But as I said, primarily what I do is teach female domination classes.
Right.
While I still do sessions, it's not the primary focus of my work.
But when it was the primary focus, they would call you up or contact you and say,
They'd
hey.
see an ad, you know, back in the days in a magazine, a newspaper. You'd be surprised where you could advertise. Village Voice, New York Magazine,
Right.
you know, all those places had personal sections. And then there would be the S&M publications, and then the internet came along, and then they had websites. So, you know, somebody would find my ad online, and they would call me, and then I'd put them through my screening process. And if they were up to snuff, I'd make an appointment with them, and they'd come in and have a session.
So when they first contact you, what is it that you want to know first about them?
I don't really want to know that much about them. I need to know if their pain threshold is high, low, or medium. I need to know if they have if they have a significant other, and whether that means
Oh,
that
if they're married or not married, dating. Why do you need to know that?
Well, because I don't want to mark them if they're married.
What do you mean mark them?
Well, if you're spanking someone or caning them, you could leave a mark.
Oh,
So
I
if
see.
somebody's married, then you know, they probably can't come home with marks on them.
Right. And so you want to know those things.
Pardon?
You will want to know those things first.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And is this done in secret when they call you? They're like, don't tell anyone. It's between us.
I mean, yes, but it's not as secretive as it used to be. It's become much more socially acceptable. So
And
people
why
are
is
not.
that?
Unfortunately, because of 50 Shades of Grey, which was a horrible book.
Oh, you didn't like that book?
Oh, it's terrible.
And why not?
Because it's not about S&M, it's about abuse. Those are two different things.
What's the difference?
Consent, for one thing, that both people are consenting to the activities that they're going to engage in, and that there's an expression that you hurt but you don't harm. So in other words, whatever you do in scene or in session shouldn't last past the session. Like when the session's over, the session's over,
Right.
unless you've negotiated something different.
Amazing. And so when you are beating a man, I guess you do more than just beat, but
Yeah.
when you're beating them down on the floor there, they're on their knees.
Yeah.
Do you feel sorry for them?
No.
Have you ever felt sorry for them?
No, because they're having the time of their life. Why would I feel sorry for them?
Because
They're in their element. I mean, they're living their authentic selves, you know?
do you ever look in their eyes and think, this poor, poor male?
No,
Really?
No,
Do you love men?
I do.
You don't have any resentment toward
No.
men at all?
I love men.
And why?
They're great. I mean, well, you know, I guess I love men because they're simple, you know? They're not as complicated as women. Their needs are very simple. And what else do I love about men? They're handy. They can do things. They have physical strength. They can be used for manual labor, you know, as a beast of burden or a workhorse. You know, men are very useful.
So if you love and respect them, how is it so easy to degrade them?
Well, degradation is not necessarily a part of S&M. It might seem like degradation to you or to someone outside looking in,
Right.
but you know, that's not necessarily a part of it. You know, like for example, I have friends that are female submissives that like being dominated, you know, and I don't feel sorry for them when they're being dominated. They're enjoying themselves.
So do you dominate females as well?
I do,
You do?
yeah.
So is it just all about sex?
No, as a matter of fact, one of the big components in an S&M relationship is chastity.
What does that mean?
Chastity, the man has to be chaste. He's not allowed to jerk off or have any kind of sex. You put them in a cock cage and you lock them up. Chastity.
It sounds funny, but it's sad that
Well,
a
don't
human
you
being-
preach that men are not supposed to have sex before marriage?
Right, but they're not supposed to be locked away in a cage. They're not supposed to let some woman beat them. They're
Well,
not
if
sup-
they can't control themselves, why wouldn't you put them in a cage? They clearly can't control themselves. They're constantly masturbating and doing naughty things, and women have to correct them.
But that's what makes it sad. that they're in that condition where they will
Well, that's their problem.
allow a woman to treat them that way. Because there's no way that you can respect men and treat them that way. Even if they are weak, you can't treat them that way.
I don't really see slaves as weak. I think it takes a lot of courage and strength to submit to a woman, specifically because of all the social stigma put on them by people like you.
When you say social stigma, what do you mean?
Well, we live in a culture where it's not socially acceptable for men to be submissive to women. That's stigma, so that makes them feel shameful.
Right, because it's
because
wrong.
of people like you.
It's wrong to be that way. It's evil for a man to submit to a woman, especially to that, down to that low. They shouldn't do it, period.
Well, where in the Bible does it say that?
It's not in the woman's nature to lead. Women don't know how to lead.
No, Eve is, if you're a descendant of Eve, then you're going to have a submissive nature. But if you're a descendant of Lilith, you're going to have a dominant nature. And some of us are a little bit of both. And the way to reach, inner peace is to reconcile your Eve and your Lilith in a healthy way.
That's interesting. You founded the Den of Iniquity.
Correct.
Back in 1994.
Yes.
94. What is that?
The Den of Iniquity was my dungeon. Your viewers probably don't know what a dungeon is, but for sake of this conversation, a dungeon is a space where professional dominatrixes conduct their sessions and where the male slaves come to meet them. So I actually had a chain of dungeons. I had dungeons in New York, LA, and Phoenix. At one time, I managed 80 dominatrixes and 14,400 square feet of dungeon space. And to this date, no one has ever been able to do what I've accomplished in the industry.
And why is that?
Because I'm the best at what I do.
You are? What makes you the best? How did you become to be the best?
Well, I think I come from a long line of alpha females, but prior to years ago, people didn't know what that was. They didn't have the language to describe it. So, my mother dominated my father. My grandmother dominated, both of her husbands. My aunts dominated both of her husbands. It's just in my blood. I don't know what to tell you, Jesse. I love it.
I had no idea that was out there like that.
Yeah.
And that it was a part of a religion. I know that it's a form of religion in that it's not good, because we have both good and evil happening. But I had no idea it was part of a any sector of the Jewish religion. I've never heard that before. That's amazing. The Daily News call you the Martha Stewart of dungeon.
That's correct.
Tell me about that.
Well, because before the Den of Iniquity, dungeons were usually like black spaces with chains hanging on the walls and, very dark, And my first dungeon looked like it was out of the pages of Ralph Lauren. It was all like Victorian antiques that had been modified for bondage. It was very sensual. Like one of the rooms was a fur vault. We had the whole thing done in furs. We had a bearskin rug on the floor with a wood-burning fireplace and chinchilla bedspreads and drapery. So it was very luxurious and very, opulent in a non-dungeony way. And so that was why they said I was the Martha Stewart of dungeons.
Are you worldwide? Do you do it?
I am worldwide.
You do this in Israel and America and other countries too?
Well, most of my international travel was when I was a kid. Most of my international travel was when I was a kid. As a dom, I've toured and probably sessions in almost every state, in the country. And I traveled to Europe. I did Ireland and France, but I'm known all over the world.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you proud of that?
Yes.
You're proud to know that. When I see you at the airport, I say, whoa, that's the lady that beat men.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank
it's
you.
amazing what's happening in the world.
Thank you.
What is, let me ask, do you dominate all races of men?
Yes.
All races?
All races of men.
Which is the hardest to dominate?
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by hard. If you mean that they have more shame and so that they tend to rebel a little more, I would say Middle Eastern men
Oh, yeah?
probably are the ones that have to be broken of the most bad habits.
And why?
Because they're sassy.
Meaning what?
You know, they don't always do what they're told. You know, sometimes you got to smack them around a little bit.
Oh, because in the Middle East, the men are in control over there rather than the women, right?
Yeah, you
Oh, I
know, because
see.
their culture is very alpha, so you know, you have to punish them more than say like a Jewish man or an Italian man who's used to the woman being in control.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would they want to be controlled since they know that a man shouldn't allow that to happen?
Oh, they don't know that. You know that.
But
They clearly don't know that.
The Middle Eastern men don't know that?
Oh, I'm not sure what the question is.
Over in the Middle East,
Okay.
men are in control for the most part.
Yes, that's correct.
And so,
And look at how horrible that works out.
and growing up that way and having that mindset, why would they look for someone to do that to them?
Because it's
I
their
can understand why the Jewish
because it's their
men-
sexual orientation. It's
Oh.
like being gay or straight. You're born this way. You don't, you know, you may not realize it, you know, at the time, but you know, you're born this way. Everyone that I've ever met that's been into S&M, and I've met more than most, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands, because not just from my dungeons, but from all the films that I did. Oh, geez, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that?
Why would they, coming from an environment where the men are in charge?
Oh, and I was talking
they
about
grow up that way.
yeah, I was talking about their sexual orientation. Because it's their orientation, you know. You're
Meaning
born
that
this way.
they have always wanted it, but they didn't
Deep
do
down.
it.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
A black man, you do it to black men too?
I do.
Are they difficult?
No, I mean, obviously it's much more loaded, you know, because of the history of slavery. The word slavery is a really loaded word. So sometimes, you know, if you're, you know, dominating a black man, you wouldn't use that word. You'd use, you know, you'd maybe make them your pet. You know, that's another way to, you know, they can be your pet, your puppy. But some of them, you know, are full on and, you know, really want to, you know, embrace the whole slavery thing. Not the old times, not the bad slavery.
Right. But
This
you're a slave.
my kind of slavery. My kind of
And
slavery.
so what kinds of things do you say to them,
Mm-hmm.
to the men you're dominating? Can you give me an example of some of the words you say to them?
Oh, well, I expect men to speak when spoken to. I expect them to keep their eyes averted. They're not to look me in the eye. I only expect them to answer me, yes, mistress, no, mistress, and if it pleases you, mistress. If they have to express a thought, they should ask for permission to think first, and then they ask for permission to ask their question, and then I will respond.
And what's the age range of these men?
Every age, from 18 to 90,
And rich and poor or whatever, right?
all over it.
How long does a session last?
Well, sessions, you know, I mean, they come in 1 hour increments. So, you know, someone will book a 1 hour, 2 hour, you know, but people do book extended overnight sessions, weekend long sessions, week long sessions, you know, it gets a little pricey, but, you know, people do book extended
Are you
sessions.
able to give me the price range of what these kind of things
I don't
cost?
talk it, no.
Yeah, okay.